we're gonna have the finish the check-ins now, then have a very small catalyst update, just like the past recent events, 5 minutes, and then we have a chunk of time to dedicate to that. And actually, I might need your help, Teddy, but yeah, we'll get to that in time. So I am very tired, and unfortunately, because this is just the beginning of my day, but I had one of those nights that, you know, you wake up 7 times and you don't know why, and you're suddenly very thirsty, and I don't know why I didn't do anything particularly different yesterday to deserve this punishment, but here I am feeling like an undead person. Honestly, feeling much better now that we are in this call. I think it's something that pulls my attention. But yeah, very fucked up, honestly. And very happy to know about the meetup. And JV mentioned maybe online meetups. I'm part of this other group called the Tomorrow Makers. They have some I don't know, maybe ideals similar to Inspiro, and it's all online. So maybe I can support you with that. I've been having those calls for a couple of months now, and they work well. It's actually quite fun. What I've been thinking, sensing, and feeling. Well, I've been seeing a lot of energy. There are moments where it comes and goes in waves, right? And now I feel like it's a high energy moment in Inspiro. Things like answers posts on the how to distribute the money, and you can see that people comment, and then people come back to this post and comment 1 day later, and I think this is a luxurious amount of energy. So I've been seeing a lot of that, and very happy that there's also like been moments of face-to-face. I think something like a meetup, even like once every 2 months, really helps. So even if I couldn't be there, I'm happy that it exists. And yeah, happy to facilitate a slightly different call today. We're even ahead of time. Yes, brilliant. Well, actually, I was planning for 6 people, so that's why. John, how about now we give a quick update on the things that have been happening on our ends. This feels good. Would you like me to start? Do you want to start?
You can start.
Cool. So I have three main energies, and all of them have a little bit to report. The first one is Story Dojo. There's 2 stories already on the making. There's a fascinating story from Renato, the designer from the book. I think this one is really a winner. This is a very interesting story. That he lived in a tent and built his house around it with his bare hands. It's really interesting. And the second one is Optimize story on how this company was not planned, but it was allowed. It's an interesting concept. And of course, everybody knows Robert and Malcolm and Charlie. So I'm very happy that those 2 stories are not both from old people and both from new people, but there's a variation. The process is going super well. Everybody's happy. Now I am a little worried about the next few ones because I don't have a third one on the line, but this is something you folks can help me with. Second thing is Kate put a little bit of energy to summon a meeting for the external funding energy. That went well. It was me, Kate, and Zam. And one of my tasks for next week is to create an Inspiro Patreon. So there's a couple of very low-hanging fruit movements happening, and we all know that we don't have a lot of energy for that, but these things happen. I agree, JV. Me too. I just need to convince him. And lastly, comms. I've been trying my best to support Natalie in comms. I don't think I'm doing a great job, honestly. I opened this opt-in to try to create a new the working group for comms, and nobody opted in, which is already some sort of important result. And neither I or Natalie think that we needed that. It was just a good thing to have if we could. But yeah, that's the last news on that. And I'm going to try to dedicate some energies today and tomorrow to ask Natalie how I can help her. That is May. Any questions, any sensings before we go to John?
Yeah, I can offer some reflections. So one would be Rob Guthrie's birthday is on Friday. Natalie and I can corner him, and John can try and grind down every day up until then. So just we'll figure out something. But my suspicion is that he'd be quite up for having his story told. And so if convincing is the main block, then I'm pretty sure he'd be up for it. The working group invitation. As soon as I saw it, I was very skeptical that anyone would put their hand up to it. I think it was just too big an ask for Lumio to work really well. Like the whole idea of put your hand up to join a working group, I find usually needs to be an in-person conversation or a invitation which is given in a more one-on-one kind of way. And I haven't had that much success in, hey, everyone who wants to be part of organizing a thing and doing quite a significant amount of work, request through Lumio. Sometimes I find I can if there's a thread that's already alive or there's energy already there and I sort of tap into it. But starting something cold and putting it out there, I would expect to fall over. So I think that was probably more of the format and the medium rather than there's no one who wants to join that working group. So that was my first reflection there.
Two notes on that. I think it's okay that nobody joins a comms working group right now. I don't think we necessarily need to put energy there. I think it was probably the right amount of energy and it got out there, and the people who care about our brand impression in the world, we can point them to it. Like, here was a great chance for you to advise. And the one thing that is interesting, and this was going to be part of my Catalyst check-in, but I'll share as part of this. So the web maintenance budget just got all used up in fixing a critical part of the website. So quite a bit sooner than we were expecting, but it was the right work that needed to get done. And I was talking with Dan about re-upping that and how we would do that. He wasn't feeling great about the co-budget process and is really just doubled down on his ask that it be part of the Inspiral Foundation budget, which I think there'll be appetite for. I think this is something we can get past. I think it's probably just a network decision actually to make a recommendation to the board to put it in the budget. And I don't think it'll be troublesome to happen. But one piece of feedback that Dan gave me, that as I was asking him, what would feel good as we, if we were to iterate that co-budget bucket and how it worked, how that service level agreement worked, what would you change? And he was like, ultimately, like, it'd be great if there was a product holder for the website or somebody with some vision leading it. And ultimately, what he said too is like, I wish there was a comms working group that felt like it had some energy around the website and like a vision for what it could be. So it's interesting because Dan so much has said I would be part of the comms working group if my role on it was being someone who would get some website work done and I could bounce off a couple of people and like be accountable, not to the whole network all at once, but like to the specific working group and maybe a few others, maybe the board. So that's an interesting bit too. And also it was interesting seeing Malcolm's got quite a bit of desire for around the website. And mostly it's around maintenance stuff from the ops perspective, but there's also a little bit of it that's also like, I could see some future functionality, like features that would not just help, it would be a bit of, from an efficiency perspective, some of the examples he gave me, because I was just kind of using him as a case study for more feedback for shaping that budget thing. So yeah, I'll just toss those two out there. I don't know that we need to move on them or do anything about it, but it is interesting to note, especially with the co-budget round coming up, and especially as Nat's only leading external comms for another month and a half, and then there's going to be a hole there that has some momentum, and I don't know who fills that yet. I actually haven't had any brainstorms on that. Also, story dojo wise, I got a story. I even submitted your form and I haven't gotten a follow up.
Oh yeah, it's true. But you told me you wanted to evolve the pods experiment a bit before you talked about it, right?
No.
No? Oh, okay, cool, perfect.
Cool. One suggestion, or I don't know, it's my sense is that I'd rather see the board just up the maintenance budget of the website than go out to a network decision on it, or for the board to say we're thinking about doing this, any feedback or concerns, as like an advice process rather than a, hey, everyone, let's advise the board to do something. I realize it's hard to get hold of them and they're busy folks, but that would probably be another line to consider and weigh up versus the thing you announced. I absolutely love that idea of a product owner for the website, particularly if that person was the one responsible for and accountable for the budget of the website. So they're the one whose face is against, hey, I'm raising money for the website or I'm spending the maintenance budget. And it's kind of anyone who has concerns goes to that person and Dan has that person directing them, rather than that person being the same person who does the work, which feels a bit conflicted at the moment.
Right. Well, John, you kind of started your part already, but you want to dive into everything else?
Sure. Just a quick reaction. Is the MVB, does the website maintenance fall within their purview to initiate a thing around that? Is that like...
It might be useful to check the agreement. In my head, they're responsible for ongoing costs of the network. And they have the discretion to be flexible about what is in and what is out of that, I believe. I don't think it's like saying this is in, this is out.
They have the decision-making power, but their mandate is only the financial compliance and like crossing the T's, and like the financial basis of the thing.
Yeah, worth checking.
That's just been my vibe or just noticing the board initiating a lot of stuff, and it's like I think we were just trying to minimize everything to just that financial compliance and like making sure that we don't go bankrupt.
Yeah, basically it says they're responsible for maintaining the contracts or overseeing all agreements and other entities. Decide what kind of financial entity, maintain or view adequate reserves. Because in my head, they were the one who decides how much Optimi gets paid, right? And they are the client for Optimi's work. And so that's the head I was thinking. But yeah, maybe they're not the right form for it.
Yeah, I think they're the one who executes the decision and maintains it, but I think the network actually has to decide that we want this, or like this is our vision of how Inspiral lives.
If it's not coming from the board, then I probably wouldn't suggest doing it under the same bucket of money that Ops does its regular maintenance from. And instead, I would say, yes, Dan, that's the better way of doing it. Once we get a financially enabled comms working group, that's how we'll do it. But the work is, let's stand up a financially enabled comms working group. They get a budget and they allocate X amount of budget for ongoing maintenance on the website. And that's part of their budget asks to the community. Because the frame of reference I've got at the moment is that we have like 15% of our internal work that we need funded and set up. And we've got like 85% to go before we can get all the things done in the way we want properly. So that would be, I'd love to see a comms working group, people, money, doing all the things. They're a client to the website. They have a budget line. They spend it on whoever.
So should we just propose that as a catalyst? I mean, since this is a functional working group now, that could hold that work for the time being?
Possibly. I mean, it's a Band-Aid either way, right? So one Band-Aid is the board takes it, one Band-Aid is the catalysts take it, and that financial working group's not set up yet. I'm keen to do that in the next month. I'm happy to jam on that with someone as well, because I know it's been my intention. I haven't really put time into it in the last 3 weeks. And the other one is a bucket raised with a fund that's drawn down at Dan's discretion as another Band-Aid. They all feel like Band-Aids.
That one won't happen, no.
So cut that one off?
Yeah, cut the co-budget one off. That's not gonna feel good, I don't think.
Okay.
Just for, yeah.
Because the other one would be instead of it being in with the because from a Catalyst working group point of view, I'd rather not have the website funds mixed in with ours. I'd rather just raise money for Catalysts and have a budget of how much we're paying Catalyst and how long it extends, and do attention grabbing stuff to say, hey, everyone help fund the Catalyst program. So it might be something like maybe the Catalysts raise a bucket and say, we will be the clients for Dan's thing, with a clear acknowledgement of this is a placeholder until we get a comms working group that stood up. How would you feel about that course of action?
It doesn't feel like Catalyst work to me, but as a substitute provisional measure, it also doesn't hurt. What do you think, John?
I don't quite understand, I guess, the concerns of putting it into the core budget. I think if the network's ready for that, and again, I would just put it through the working group Lumio. And so the people who are engaged in operational stuff could say yay or nay. This feels like stuff that we should be running through the foundation. It's like a core asset of the network. It's part of the brand.
Cool. So to me, the only reason I wouldn't want to do it is I don't want to use up people's willingness to give to the Catalyst Fund on other things. So if it's a clear, we're going to fund the website, where should we put it? Oh, let's put it with Catalysts. If that's the process, then that sounds okay to me.
I'm with you, but yeah, I'm with you. I agree completely.
I got confused because I was saying put it into the board core budget, and you were saying take it into, and you were saying take it into the Catalyst working group.
Yeah, because I thought you were saying it doesn't feel like the board's responsibility or mandate.
I'm saying that it feels like core budget stuff, and it's like that if we just put a recommendation to the board, put this in the core budget, this is what the contributorship wants, then they put in the core budget, and that's taken care of for now.
Yeah, cool. I mean,
that sounds better to me, but if there's any process that is different, nothing like this happened using the Catalyst thus far, have it? Nothing non-Catalyst work use the Catalyst as a springboard.
Well, one of the things that I'm aware of is that we want 2 or 3 more financially enabled working groups. Catalyst will be the first one, and we don't have the funds allocated yet to bootstrap the other ones. So, but yeah, I'm happy with your solution.
Okay.
Acknowledging we used a bit of time. Hey, Teddy, do you got any reactions or anything to this?
To this conversation, I've been following it closely. It's like a technical administrative conversation. I don't have anything to say other than I felt that there's no, I can't see any reason why the Catalyst working group shouldn't be kind of a proactive group. Jorian was talking about what falls inside the Catalyst and what doesn't. But if there's an initiative that needs to be sponsored, why can't the Catalysts decide to do that?
I think the only concern I heard was from JV of just like bookkeeping on our end. It makes it a little bit messier. I think that was the only thing I heard that made me lean towards putting it to the core budget.
Cool. And just to clarify, I'm not concerned about the bookkeeping. I'm only concerned about people's willingness to fund the Catalyst program itself and diminishing that. So if that can be mitigated, then I'm really happy to include financial management of other projects within the Catalyst runway and budgets, and really committed to getting a good, clear spreadsheet which we can all understand and own.
Folks, I'm a little bit worried about time, because actually that was great, because we had less people, so we had more time to dive into it. But I'm here wondering if we'll have time for everything. Any important noticing since they're in that part of the call? Maybe John, there's something you didn't talk about that you dig these days?
No, I think I'm good. Other than that, winter retreat is maybe one of the volunteers for that is not going to be able to be in town. So I'm like trying to find one more person for that working group. And may have found that person, but she's thinking on it, Luthia. So yeah, I think that's the only update there. We're looking to put the down payment on the venue here soon and give it a go. Let's see if we can get the folks for it. We'll need 20 folks to make it viable. But I'm feeling pretty good with 3 months of promotion time. So, and also there seems to be a little bit of a backup. You know, we might lose the down payment if we don't get that number, but I think Doris is leaning towards potentially, if it's a smaller number, hosting at her place. So that could be really cool too. So yeah, we're gonna put out that invite soon. Would love folks' help sharing it around.
Cool. Any noticings on that? Any last remarks on anything? All right. So folks, what I wanted the most with this call here today is not to finish a process, but to start a process. I feel like there's two energies that I wanted to lean in, which is learning and accountability. In a way, I feel like that it's very important that we create some form of learning process, especially within the catalysts, that in 1,000 years, if Inspire is still around, people can still recall and still find those learnings. And at the same time, this is a catalyst working group, and there's like a day-by-day tasks that we are executing. So how can me and John be accountable for those things? Well, when we say that we're going to do X, when do we confirm to you that we did X? So honestly, I was inspired by Teddy's thoughts even before I saw this video. Even like the text that you said, that you sent, it was also very much leaning towards this learning process. Okay, John, got it. And I was thinking, can we create some sort of experiment, some sort of machine, some sort of a process that we can guarantee this learning and this accountability, and maybe use this process to organize everything that we're producing for the network? In a way, can we create Working Out Loud 2.0 here? And I don't have the solution, I have mostly the question. So I wanted to ask you folks, can you folks help me out creating this machine so we can report efficiently and back to you, and also create useful stuff for everyone? What do you think?
So one of yes, I really like the question about learning and accountability. One of the things that worked really well for us when we were doing tight sprints was to use the tickets shipped in the sprint and the tickets we allocated to the sprint as our main accountability measure. So that was, when we make a promise, it lives on the board. And so at the moment, when I look at the Trello board, one of the ways you might want to do this is make a new list called Sprint 20 whatever, or Sprint the date that it ends, you move the tickets onto it, you celebrate them, then you archive that list, create a new empty list for the next sprint, just to get real visibility on what was done recently. And that kind of thing might be a way. So that's the first idea that springs to mind, but love the direction of the questions.
Cool. Teddy, any noticings? Because, you know, this was very much inspired by your thoughts at the beginning, and even more and so with the video. So I was interested if you have any tools similar to that enactment tool, but for accountability in your brain. Teddy? Maybe not there. Or muted. You're muted, Teddy.
I just had to go and check something on the stove.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I'm sorry about that. Sorry, so I missed the question.
I was wondering, since I was very much inspired by your text and later your video, I saw in your video that you explained a very a format for a tool that people can use with the enactment. And I was wondering if you have any tools specifically for accountability that you haven't yet written down, that you have in your brain that we could test and use.
Okay, so I mean, the basic answer is yes, but I'm very conscious that what I was offering to this group is something that is still very, still emerging, still so much of it is still up here. And so I'm a bit concerned about dumping it all on you guys to start cold. So the thought I had, and this was the substance of the Slack message I sent to you, John, which you didn't have a chance to get to, was that maybe a gentle way to start this off would be that we record this conversation as we're doing now, and then offline, I get a chance to go through that conversation and, in a sense, do my own kind of noticing practice, and then use that as an invitation to our next conversation. In other words, there's a chance, so I can actually formulate it and set it out in a way which is understandable to you guys. Yes, we're going to pay attention to this. This is the kind of thing that's coming up. I'm also learning in this conversation. I'm learning about the nature of this group in a way that's going to influence the process as well. So, having a chance to think about it before we do it, I think I find very helpful. This idea came out this morning because we're going to do the same thing with the Methods Lab group. We're going to be noticing our own practice, our own conversational practice. But again, we're going to do some offline learning before we actually, I'm going to have a chance to do some offline preparation, I should say, before plunging into that practice. So I mean, I would be curious to probe a little further into this notion of accountability. What kind of accountability are you concerned about? Because accountability is to me, is a very kind of general, big idea. How do you want to make known to the group, what you've been up to? What sort of accountability are you hoping to project? And you don't have to answer that now. Maybe that's something to think about between now and the next meeting.
Okay.
I had a question which came to me as I was sitting listening to you talk, which I would find helpful. I don't know if it's useful to everyone, but let me state it anyway. So the situation we have now is we have two catalysts, one of whom is remote, and another, John, who was largely working remotely from Wellington and is now living here. And I'm curious to know how the work of catalyzing and how the feeling of being a catalyst has changed for John in that transition. You know, what's different doing it from here compared to doing it from Indianapolis and San Francisco? I can't remember exactly where else you worked. That relation to place is actually important in our work, and so I'm wondering if you can articulate that. Again, that's not something that has to happen right now, but I think it'd be useful background. So the story, this is like a narrative of being a catalyst, the story of being a catalyst, that I'm finding myself interested to know more about. So my offer is to take the recording of this today's conversation, do some work on it before we get together again, and then suggest, you know, perhaps a fairly simple step-by-step practice from there. Would that
Humbly accepted. I think that's great. And just let us know, Teddy, if you'd like to analyze this in 2 weeks for the next call, or in 4 weeks, or in whatever time frame you need. So then we can organize who does the next and the other one. But I think it's a wonderful offer.
You know, we
sorry,
we can make a start using this one.
Okay. Nice. This sounds perfect, honestly. And yeah, thanks for the offer. I would love to have a more profound experiment, thought over, and processed. But I'm interested in your question as well, John. Do you have any notices on the difference between back then and now?
Happy to dive into it now, or I'm happy to also put it in the bike rack. I actually already did for a future meeting. I don't know if there was some more wrap up on this conversation that we were hoping for.
Ooh.
What is this? Is this Teddy's oven? No. Okay. Honestly, I wanted to start a process to create a tool, and what Teddy just offered is to process it and create a first iteration of a tool. So I think it's great success. I wasn't expecting such a direct offer of exactly what I asked for when I started this. So it's great. But
I might go help my partner turn off the fire alarm because I'd not. Oh, she did manage it. Okay, cool. Sorry about that.
That's okay. But I realized that you need to leave in 10 minutes, right, John?
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe, yeah, I'm happy to dive a little bit into Teddy's question on the difference between then and now, because he offered to help with the tool in his own time frame and in his own pulse. Unless anybody has any notices before we jump into that. All right. So why don't you give it a go for 5 minutes? Tell us about the difference.
Cool. Most recent kind of just like example of a difference, just to start from the very concrete, is like go to the event that JV organized and have a good conversation with some folks, and now I'm getting breakfast with 2 contributors and 1 potential contributor this Friday. So like there's a level of I mean, people just get a lot of joy out of meeting in person. The other one is Doris there. There'd be much less chance. Actually, probably she would not be involved in the way she is in the gatherings working group. just because she really prefers to meet in person and have all the depth of communication and other ways that lives can intertwine. I mean, like, I'm buying in bulk through her, and some other things, you know, like economically we're like exchanging, as well as like relationship and the stuff that you can do through the video. So that's interesting. I mean, it's interesting to be involved in the yeah, I mean, and it's interesting because, like, actually one of the biggest questions I was asking as I was joining Inspiral was, you know, how does material asset sharing support, like, uh, us to move forward through community, us to build relationships of trust, and ultimately to move the work forward. So yeah, obviously in person you can do some more of that material sharing, and particularly around Kai food, beer. You know, these are really useful tools for doing the work. So yeah, and there's just a bit of contextual information too that you can just pick up by seeing people around. You know, you pick up just additional data. Although, you know, I probably don't see quite as many of the online ones, so it's also just a different view in some ways. I still keep up relatively with the Slack, but not with Lumio as much, I would say. You know, I probably missed some stuff in water cooler and Slack, but Lumio, if it's not a conversation that I need to pay attention to, I'm not reading all the way through it. And I wouldn't always do that when I was remote, but much more often I was reading like nearly all the content that was going through, just to catch the kind of like little pieces of context about where people are at in life and stuff like that. Yeah, there's definitely, and you'd get a little bit of, just more details about where different companies are at in the network too. Like, I feel much more, I doubt I would have the understanding of what was going on with Root Systems and Bamboo Creative and stuff like that, and like just their journeys and people moving between companies and stuff like that. I mean, part of that's being in the Lumio team too. So that change happened not too far before coming here. So that's like another, I think that also adds a nuance to how I show up in the network as a catalyst. Yeah, those are my first reactions anyway, without thinking too much on it.
Cool. I do read everything. So interesting. Very, very interesting. I read every sentence written everywhere. But folks, I want to respect John's request and time. I think 5 minutes is very it's a good amount of time for a checkout. And first of all, thank you, thanks JP for the idea with the tickets. Honestly, I'm gonna give it a thought and maybe just create some small improvement in the way we're using tickets. I'm not sure how, but just to try something as a proto experiment. And I think steady for the offer to process it and think about it and bring something more structured for us and next time. And yeah, interested to know how you folks feeling and yeah, basically how you folks feeling. What did you folks sense? Do you want to start, Eddie?
Yeah, I'm feeling really good about this conversation, and I'm just feeling a pang of guilt that I suddenly wanted to express to JV, because, you know, for a while now you've been living just about halfway between where I live and Wellington, and I pass your place either on the train or by car quite often, and I've always meant to make a kind of spontaneous drop-in, unannounced visit, and I never have, but I will. I'll come and annoy you at some point in the near future, and I hope that's okay, because it's nice even to see you in that house from on the screen here, and be reminded of your physical presence. John, I don't know where you are. I mean, I know you're roughly. So I always have this desire to locate somebody in space. It helps me to understand when I can do that. So, I more or less know where you are, John. Jorian, I'm obviously a bit more vague. But anyway, that's a silly thing. I'll shut up. Anyway, I'm feeling happy.
Could you?
I could jump in.
Yeah, go for it.
I have to nominate on. Nicely facilitated, Jerem. Thanks for watching time and all that. I think the using the Trello board in another way, super open for it. Definitely don't have headspace, I think, to picture it right now myself, but I am committed to continuing to, at each of these meetings or on this day, move the things that are in the celebrate column into the done column, and generally try to put, make sure that in the sprint kind of lines up with what's happening between now and the next one. So for some accountability. And I know there was financially enabling the working group. I just want to make visible. JV, I appreciate you you looking at that and figuring that out. I'm going to be looking at that same process with the gatherings working group. And there's also, I think, not to put it on anybody, just the call out for making that spreadsheet for tracking the Catalyst budget as we go forward. And I'll be giving just one more, I think, probably, and maybe a message to y'all, especially JV and Jordan, and all of you, about next steps of the web maintenance budget and whether that should sit in our working group or through the core, because I guess that's still kind of hanging there. Sorry, long checkout. Thanks, y'all. A good meeting.
I'm sorry, I just have one quick question. This meeting was deferred for a week. Is the rhythm to come, are we going to now wait another fortnight? And so that will...
Precisely, yeah. Once every 2 weeks. Sorry about last week. I'm so sorry. Oh.
We've displaced the calendar by a week now.
Exactly.
Cool. Great conversation. Hope the Catalysts are feeling supported. Really love Teddy's offer to review the videos and to ad hoc design a process to deepen things. Just super excited to see where that goes, and really keen for some Teddy time each session, and just to know how much of that time to protect in our meeting times would be good to plan around. And also, if you want us to do some homework or you want me to do some homework beforehand, I'm up for those requests, and I'll try and pay attention to homework requests. I just made a ticket on the board, which I'll commit to for next sprint, which was to try and get the Catalyst working group budget spreadsheet and a pitch for the board together, so that we can move forward on that. So that's what I want to do. I work really well with deadlines, particularly if people remind me of them. So that is something that helps me function. And look forward to jamming on future stuff with you all. And there's a lot of work to do, and really excited to do it with you, the three of you, and everyone else on this call, on this group who's not on this call. Anyway, you understand.
I'm pretty happy with the result. As you know, I was not feeling so well at the beginning of this call. Nothing to do with you folks, but it's just a delight to work with you guys. And again, I thank you for all the offers and all the sensing. Thank you for the discussion, even on the website. I think it's super valuable. So let me not extend myself too much, because I know John needs to go.
Yep, I'm out. Cheers.
All right, folks. Thanks very much, and see you in 2 weeks.